Maxie, I've been thinking, should we do season 3 on the Dr. Joe show? You sure? You sure it's a good idea? Welcome to a very special edition of the Dr. Joe Show. HABANEWS, breaking news. I wish I was in a better mood tonight, but I unfortunately am not. But let's not... See, I'm getting into that same rut that causes all the other panic and chaos to tsunami through the forums. You know, that's what does it. That deep down, just that anger, that like, I can't believe he fucking said that. And it just doesn't do anything for anybody. What am I talking about? Well, tonight we are going to discuss a topic that has recently caused more turbulence within the Cuban cigar community online, within the forums, than possibly the latest breaking news about how fragile the embargo has become. I mean, this is a hot topic. What I am referring to is an article written by one Dave Garofalo, cigar smoker and shop owner for over 30 years. And Dave took a trip to Cuba. Dave spent 6 days in Cuba traveling and recording all of his experiences and findings relevant to Cuba proper, but especially in terms of the Cuban cigar industry. Those of you watching for the first time, my other viewers can tell you that I do go off on rants sometimes. I'm actually semi-popular for them. They seem to like them. But I hope they can recognize that I only go off on rants on sheer idiots, sheer idiocy, okay? This is not sheer idiocy. Let's hope this is just confusion or lack of information, because that's what it seems to be. Either way, the article has the community up in a fucking firestorm. I mean, a free-for-all. Right down to fucking hate mail. And Dave going on his radio show, Cigar Authority, and posting rebuttals to these crazy comments he's been getting, and then sitting down with more people and posting more rebuttals. And to be honest, all I've done, and this is why I want you to believe that I have no bias here. I really don't. I'll get a little more into that in my background for first-time viewers, because I know there may be a good many of you out there, since this is just such a hot topic right now. But I'm only doing this because of one reason, and that's how it affects my current viewers, many of whom are new to the whole Cuban cigar game online. And it's causing some problems, to be quite frank. So, as I was saying, I feel I have no bias. All I have done is read this article. I have not looked at any of this hate mail. I have not looked at Dave's next link about his, rebuttal to email comments about the article. I have not looked on any of the forums on what people are saying. I have not posted anything on any of the forums. Most of my viewers know I'm really not a forum guy. It goes down to the point where I have never even watched Dave's show once. So no, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan, but I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just that I'm too busy doing my own thing to be watching your show all the time. I have a lot of other sources of information that I like. So I have nothing against this person. In fact, I've heard of him, but that's about it. So that's where our relation, ends. There is no relation. There is no animosity. There is nothing between us. And that's a good thing. Because all sorts of stuff, with anger and hate mail and all that shit just gets in the way. Now tonight, we're going to analyze Dave's article. We're going to pick at it and look at his claims and his findings and see what we can find with the information we have on us. So, oh, that's better. Whew, that's a lot better. It's been a long day. I've been up since 4 in the morning, editing, and then getting an email about this. And actually, I was just editing Hoy de Nicaragua, editing the embargo episode, which I finished recording, and then I get an email about this. And I just thought it would fit in perfectly at the end of the embargo episode before I start getting emails on that and probably doing a follow-up because that's such a hot topic. And I don't want this issue to just kind of go badly, burn. It can either melt away or it can get worse, and I want to get what I know out there before either or. So, like I was saying, if you've been watching my show for some time now, you know that it's not just about the cigars. It's mostly about the cigars, but it's also very much about the history behind the cigars and the history behind the culture that is the cigar industry, that is the cigar community. Because, man, that's just everything, There's so much information behind every single brand out there. Let's just take the Cuban brands, for instance. Every one of them has a life story behind them. And then even, many, in fact, sometimes more on the non-Cuban side, with huge brands like Fuente, episodes that go on for hours. People who are going, oh my God, fast forward. I love the history. I really love it. Now, for all that history behind every one of those brands, Hoy de Nicaragua, another huge one I just did, behind all that history, take it all, mash it all together. That's not even one bit of all the history behind Cuba itself. Cuba, as a whole nother entity, as a cigar capital culture, there's just so much history behind that as well. And I think what I'm trying to say here is, look, Dave, 30 years of experience as a cigar smoker and a shop owner. Does that mean you know anything about Cuba? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It doesn't even mean you know history about other brands. Look, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. I worked at a cigar shop for many years, and I know what it is to be occupied with all that stuff. I don't. I know as a retail clerk, I know from that level, but as an owner, you have to have knowledge of all the brands as far as wrapper, binder, filler goes, and as far as where they come from and pricing and where they're coming from, how many you have, inventory, stock, dealing with companies, dealing with company reps, dealing with customers, dealing with disgruntled customers. The list goes on. The list goes on. And that's hours a day, every day. And then, of course, you need some time to fucking enjoy yourself. So I wouldn't blame you if you didn't sit around reading books about Cuba and going online and doing research on Cuba. A lot of my viewers are new guys. I would say, just from the people I get coming into my show, sending me emails for the first time saying, hey Joe, can you help me out, blah, blah, blah. I would say that probably 50% or more of the guys, the Cuban cigar guys, now out there in the US ordering online, have been doing so for less than 3 years. That's my estimate. And sure, there are a lot of guys out there who are able to make their own judgment calls when somebody like you comes along saying, I got 30 years of experience, and then posting all this crazy shit about fucking Cuba. And the new guys are going, oh my God, I just spent, because they love to collect and they're excited about the whole thing. And I just spent thousands of dollars. I'm not agreeing with any of that. but I just spent thousands of fucking dollars on all, and now you're saying that this is not even a fucking blend? Oh, what did I do? And right away, they're just like, because of that, he has 30 years of experience, he must be right. Their brains just gravitate toward those statements instead of saying, wait a second. I just smoked a Partagas last night, and I'm here smoking a Trinidad Fundadores this morning. And these two cigars are absolutely nothing alike ever. Ever. You know? Two completely different cigars. But that's just one point I'm trying to make here about why it shouldn't be such a big deal. If people just sat down and thought for a minute, instead of going nuts, instead of saying, you know, fuck you, instead of just falling off their chair or trying to send all their Cuban cigars back as soon as they read your article, you know, the world would be an easier place, but it is not so. Anyway, people watch my show for exactly that reason, to learn about things like that. Now, I'm not saying I have all the answers or I know anything, but I will say that I'm a special case. That I eat, live, breathe, sleep, and shit fucking cigars, to be cliche. That I spend hours and hours and hours every single day researching cigars, researching Cuban cigars, and researching Cuba. I'm not even going to say how much experience I have as far in terms of years, or because that really means nothing to me. A person who's been researching their history and culture and has been sincerely into it for 5 years may know more than a guy who's been into it for 20. Shit, I've met old-timers who smoke the same cigar for 30 years. They don't know shit about cigars. They just know they like this cigar and that cigar. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But I think it's a bad thing to go into unfamiliar terrain and start making all sorts of judgment calls. Assumptions. Those deadly little fuckers will get you every time. They've got me once or twice. And I say to myself, even though I think I know something, I'm double checking before I say it on here, because I'm not going to be caught dead in the water again on some assumption. And luckily when I did it, it was only on some little piece of brand history of some brand so long ago I fucking forget. You know? But you really shouldn't do that, Dave. I tell my viewers all the time, information is everything. Information is everything. Not that it will always help you enjoy the cigars more. You know, you're going to need a lot of it if you're going to buy Cuban cigars online. You shouldn't do that for the first time without reading up or checking with people or doing your homework, that's for sure. But it's also good for cases when someone like you comes along saying all sorts of shit, and then people are sitting there defenseless because they don't know the answers and they think, oh my God, you might be right. But you're not. And that's what I provide, information. Whereas you, on the other hand, provide the exact opposite. Misinformation, or lack thereof. Fucking information's antimatter. Just like, you know, and the problem with information like that, misinformation like that, is it sticks. It fucking sticks. It sticks like a shitty meal you had 3 days ago and you can't get the fucking taste out of your mouth. It sticks. Just like the whole cedar sheet in a box of Cuban cigars has to have the fucking half moon notch. Not fucking true for the 8th millionth time. But somebody somewhere, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, posted that little tidbit, that little nugget of fucking information on the web where everybody somehow found it because Google stuck it in a search result that went way high up for some reason. And oh my God, now everybody believes that that's the truth. It ain't the truth. It's the complete opposite. It's bullshit. And I wish Penn and Teller hadn't already coined that. Anyway, let's move on. Time to get into it. We're going to read Dave's article because a lot of you out there haven't read it or don't know what I'm talking about, which is probably a good thing, but since you're already watching, we're going to read Dave's article. We're going to go through it pretty fast. I'm only going to read day 6. We're not going to sit here. Don't worry. Calm down. We're not going to sit here and have a fucking epilogue of Dave's fucking journey all over again. Because day 6 is the shocking conclusion. And that's all that really matters because it puts all 6 days together. I will go back and reference certain points at the end of each little tidbit that I want to decimate from the record on individual days and statements I want to make about things that happen on individual days. But for the most part, right now, we're going to read day 6 and then move into disassembling this nightmare. This fucking nightmare of a fucking post. Thank you very much, Dave.
Say goodnight, Max.